Oh, hello there. It's been a while since we've done one of these face-to-face videos. So, 2020 kind of sucked, but at least it's been great for video games, am I right? And so that is why I am making this video, to recognize some of the more memorable games of this year. Let's get into it. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward video, seeing as I really only have 3 categories to give awards to, with a bunch of honorable mentions and one not so honorable mention. My 3 categories are most disappointing game of 2020, the game I find myself thinking of the most even after finishing it, and of course my game of the year. I know those last 2 sound like they could be pretty similar, but they're not. So yeah, with that said, I'd say let's get started with most disappointing game of 2020, because you know what they say, start with the worst and then work your way to the best. So this year saw some pretty glitchy ass games released, from the absolute hot mess of an otherwise amazing, great game in Cyberpunk 2077, to Assassin's Creed Valhalla before it, to even some of the more polished games like Spider-Man Miles Morales and the impeccable Ghost of Tsushima. They were completely void of the occasional bugs on my base PS4. Now, to a certain degree, it's reasonably understandable, given what devs and the studios have had to deal with this year, with everything from the pandemic to public and investor backlash over delays, to even the infamous industry standard crunch times. Got it second time. I imagine the majority of you would probably have put Cyberpunk 2077, at least the console version, on as your most disappointing game if this was your list, and I wouldn't fight you on that. But for me, no game has really disappointed me as much this year as Marvel's Avengers. Now, to start off, I want to say that I wasn't feeling that confident about Marvel's Avengers even before it came out, but I had heard some good things about the base campaign, so I figured, you know what, I'd give it a try. What makes Marvel's Avengers my go-to most disappointing game of 2020 is that it managed to surpass my lack of confidence in the game. Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix have made a game about one of the world's most popular franchises right now. Like, seriously, this is an Avengers game. That shit should be printing money for them. But they chose to make it a primarily multiplayer experience with uninteresting, repetitive maps, uninteresting, repetitive waves of enemies, and an astounding lack of bosses given the massive roster of sinister, diabolical villains that they could have pulled from. The studios even seem to be fudging up their first foray into DLC content, with their Kate Bishop DLC taking place primarily in the same frozen tundra map from the base game. The fact that the game has seen a 96% drop in players kind of speaks for itself. What a letdown. What a loss. What a disappointment. I'm gonna take this off. It's getting hot. Okay. So, let's forget about Marvel's Avengers for now. Lord knows I have. And let's move on to the game that stuck with me the most this year. Before we do, I do need to mention, honorable mention for this category is Cyberpunk 2077. Oh, there's my guinea pig. Hey, bud. Hi, buddy. Now, Cyberpunk 2077, is it buggy, glitchy, crashy, especially on my base PS4? Oh yeah, 100%. But I still find myself thinking about it all the fucking time when I'm playing other video games, when I'm at work, when I'm out for a walk, when I'm grocery shopping, you name it. Despite all of its faults, Cyberpunk is still an incredibly fun game, and Night City is an amazing world, and rich world to dive into. If it wasn't for its buggy overall lack of completion, Cyberpunk could have easily been my game of the year this year. However, I really can't have a most lasting / memorable game category and not give it to Final Fantasy VII Remake. I was eagerly waiting for this game to come out ever since they launched the teaser trailer for it. And when they released that epic release date trailer saying that the game was available for pre-order, I didn't hesitate to snatch it, even though it was still eons until the game finally launched. And my God, man, long after I finished this game, I still find myself thinking about it, thinking about the music, the characters, the world, and just wanting to play it again. Maybe it's the nostalgia I feel towards the original Final Fantasy VII. Maybe it's how long I had to wait to actually play the remake. Maybe it's because Final Fantasy VII is one of my all-time favorite JRPGs. But my God, I fucking love this game. It took the Midgar-based section of the overall story of Final Fantasy VII and just breathed fantastic new fucking life into it. I cannot wait. I cannot fucking wait for the next installment in this series. It got its hooks in me and I cannot wait for more. For now, the only way I can really do that is to jump back into the remake or play the original Final Fantasy VII. Despite how fucking amazing the Final Fantasy VII remake was, there was one game that took me completely by surprise and captivated me pretty much from the moment I picked it up, making it my game of 2020. Before we get into it though, I do have a few honorable mentions. First up is The Last of Us Part 2. Now, I'll be honest, I was waiting just as eagerly for the release of Last of Us Part 2 as I was Final Fantasy VII Remake. And what I got for my patience was an all-around excellent sequel to the timeless original Last of Us. But Last of Us Part 2 wasn't without its controversies. From how it handled the death of one of its main characters, to forcing the players to play as the game's villain, as sort of a lesson in learning about the enemy. Now, Last of Us Part 2 easily fits within Naughty Dog's pantheon of stellar video games. But it also made me tense and on edge and depressed to play through it. And now, while some people may look at a video game having that kind of effect on the player as, game of the year material, I, for one, do not. When I compare it to Final Fantasy VII Remake, I had fun playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think I had fun playing The Last of Us 2 remake. It had great production value, solid acting. The music was great. The action was intense. But it also just, it's one of those things where you play it once and I don't know if I'm gonna play it again. I don't know. I can easily go back and replay any of the other Naughty Dog games, but Last of Us Part 2, man, like, I don't know. Yeah. And for that reason, the other games on my list just notched just notched a little bit ahead of Last of Us Part 2. My second honorable mention goes to Persona 5 Royal. Now, while Royal is for the most part the same as its vanilla counterpart, the quality of life improvements, new characters, new final boss, and additional story content made Persona 5 Royal a lengthy but delightful second trip through an emotionally rich, mature, and gripping JRPG. For anyone looking to take advantage of the free copy of Persona 5 that you get with PS5's PS Plus bundle, I would say maybe play an hour or two of it and see if you like it, and if you do, shell out the funds for Persona 5 Royal. It is the definitive, supremely better version of an already outstanding game, and you'd really be doing yourself a disservice if you played the vanilla Persona 5 instead. You really would. You'd be missing out on some great improvements. Finally, my last honorable mention for Game of the Year goes to Spider-Man Miles Morales. This game, regardless of how short it was, took the same base gameplay mechanics from the original Spider-Man PS4 game that I loved, that came out a couple years ago, and just elevated it by making Peter Parker ugly and delivering a compelling story, given it was basically about Miles saving the city, particularly Harlem, from a destructive feud between a group of radicals and a dishonest corporation. Ooh. The writing, storytelling, gameplay, and character development in this game is all top-notch. If there was a This Shit Made Sam Cry award, Spider-Man Miles Morales would win it. This game just makes me very happy that they made the decision to not make it a PS5 exclusive game, which I was very sure they were going to do, but it also makes me so fucking stoked for the hopefully full-length next entry in this series. With that though, guys, it's time for my choice for Game of the Year. And it really couldn't go to any other game but Ghost of Tsushima. When I made my Ghost of Tsushima video a couple months back, I talked about how I started playing Ghost of Tsushima while I was still working through the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and how Ghost of Tsushima quickly became the game that was at the forefront of my attention. Final Fantasy VII Remake is a great game, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic game, but the island of Tsushima, rife with its fox dens, bamboo strikes, hot springs, and just scores upon scores of enemy Mongols to fight with its smooth, fluid, devastating stance-based battle mechanic. It just drew me in and gave me the same sensation of wonder I felt when I first played through Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn a few years back. Simply put, if someone came up to me and said, "Hey Sam, would you like to play a game where you play as a badass ninja, samurai, warrior?" I'd be stupid to say no. I don't know why I made that guy sound kind of, I guess I was going for Jack Nicholson. I don't know, but that's how it came across. But yeah, I'd be stupid to say no. But even going beyond the concept of the game, Tsushima is just a fucking stunning game to look at. It also doesn't hurt that they released a totally free, separate multiplayer portion of the game that is remarkably fleshed out, fun to play, and again, totally free. It also doesn't hurt that Ghost of Tsushima is compared quite a bit to the Assassin's Creed games, forcing me to discover an entire series of games that I had never touched before. I played through Assassin's Creed 2 because that's what I was told was the best game to start the series with. Playing through Brotherhood, played a little bit of Valhalla, and I'm loving all the time that I spend in these games. And I wouldn't have even thought to pick any of those games up if it wasn't for how fan-fucking-tastic Ghost of Tsushima proved to be. Ghost of Tsushima isn't just my game of the year. I would put it forth as one of the generation-defining games of the PlayStation 4 era. Well, that's it for my list this year, guys. Before I go, I want to give a huge shout out to my friend Arcady for making the amazing thumbnail to this video. Love you, buddy. I also want to give a huge shout out to you guys for liking, commenting, and or subscribing to my channel this year. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy pandemic-y days to watch this guy ramble into a camera for a few minutes, trying to figure this content creator shit out. It really means a lot to me. So I appreciate it. I won't keep you guys though. I'm sure you have some Zoom parties that you have to get to. So with that, I will say, love you guys. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe. And if you liked the video today, leave a like, comment, or subscribe if you haven't already. With that though, Happy New Year. I'll see you in 2021. Bye for now.